the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here for the next 2 hours of the news and information you need to make intelligent decisions about your cannabis future. And what a glorious cannabis future it is. We are 8 days away from the first legal recreational marijuana sales here in the state of Oregon, and I have great news to announce regarding that. That's right, on Thursday, October 1st, 2015 at 10 a.m. here in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon, we will have our first legal cannabis sales, and I and Anthony Johnson, the man who put the legalization on the ballot, will be the first people to legally purchase weed in Oregon. Well, I should say we will be among the first people, because lots of places are going to be open up at 10 a.m. and lots of people will be the first people buying marijuana. But Anthony and I are holding a press event at the Canasea dispensary. It's having its grand opening on October 1st, and they've got Kink FM is going to be out there. That's right, Portland has a radio station called KINK, Kink FM. Of course we do. And we'll be out there at 10 a.m. with the radio station, with the TV crews, with the photographers, making a big deal of the first legal marijuana purchases. First 100 adult purchasers and first 100 medical purchasers who show up will get a free gift bag, and they're announcing a giveaway. The first 1,000 people get entered in a contest where they could win free cannabis for a year. That's right, vouchers for free cannabis for one whole year, all happening at Canasea on Thursday, October 1st at 10 a.m. We will be there with the Portland Normal booth. I will also stream live through Periscope, so you'll be able to check out what legality looks and feels like here in the state of Oregon. Speaking of that legality, we've got all sorts of things to talk about today on the show. And right after the 420 radio news, we get into Behind the Headlines, where there's a proposal here. They're talking about it tonight at the Portland City Council to create a 1,000-foot buffer zone between medical and recreational pot shops. We'll tell you why that is a terrible idea when we get behind the headlines. Also on the show today in Drug War Data Mining, we know that marijuana is safer than alcohol. We know that marijuana is safer than tobacco. We even know that marijuana is safer than sugar. But is marijuana safer than selfies? We'll take a look at some of the strange data we unearthed today in our Drug War Data Mining. Also coming up on the show today, we're going to replay our Reformers Reader segment from yesterday, our great interview with Steve D'Angelo, the author of the Cannabis Manifesto, A New Paradigm for Wellness. Got a lot of great response to that interview and some folks wanting to hear it again. So, all right, we'll play that for you. That's coming up at 1:30. And then at the end of the show, we'll have time for a radical rant where I ask the question, do recreational and medical marijuana really need to be separate anyway? Intriguing discussion, and we'll take that into hour 2, Toker Talk Radio, where we'll take your opinions on the matter. Call in live at 84-420 radio. That's toll free, 844-207-2346. We're back with the 420 radio news right after this. And don't forget Gordon Green's Irie music coming up at 420.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
This is 420radio.org, your 24-hour cannabis community radio.
Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com. With years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com. Marijuana may be legal in some states, but it is still very difficult to advertise. Legal marijuana states have strict guidelines about where marijuana ads may be placed. 420 Radio provides advertisers a marijuana-related on-demand platform skewed toward older adults that meets Colorado and other legal states' advertising restrictions. Visit 420radio.org/advertise to learn how you can place web ads that are immune to ad block software and audio ads heard live on 420 Radio and stored permanently in the enormously popular Russ Belville Show podcast. 420 Radio is heard by legions of dedicated fans who make up the activist leadership and entrepreneurial base of serious marijuana law reformers. Our audience is older, better educated, and more financially secure than most marijuana-related media can boast. Learn more at 420radio.org/advertise.
As a police officer, I walked the beat, served on the Vice Squad and SWAT team, and became an expert on drug addiction. I saw firsthand the effects of Ohio's destructive marijuana laws. Simply put, they don't work. Ohio spends over $100 million each year on this failed effort. It's time for marijuana reform, so law enforcement can spend their time cracking down on real criminals and making Ohio a safer place for our families. Vote yes on 3.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Replays of 420 Radio News are embeddable and shareable from our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/RadicalRuss. Now, the marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015. In a decision hailed by civil rights advocates and supporters of marijuana legalization, Massachusetts' highest court ruled Tuesday that police cannot stop motorists solely because they suspect the vehicle's occupants are in possession of marijuana. The Supreme Judicial Court based its 5-2 ruling largely on a measure that voters approved in 2008 that reduced possession of an ounce or less of marijuana from a criminal offense to a civil violation punishable by a fine. Justice Margot Botsford wrote for the majority, quote, "Permitting police to stop a vehicle based on reasonable suspicion that an occupant possesses marijuana does not serve the objectives of the law change," end quote. Botsford's opinion followed rulings in 2011 and last year, finding that the odor of burned marijuana alone does not provide grounds for police to order occupants to exit a car, and that the smell of burned or unburned marijuana does not justify searching a vehicle without a warrant. Representative Ted Lieu, Democrat of California, and Representative Justin Amash, a Republican of Michigan, are pushing legislation that would block the DEA from financing its eradication efforts through civil asset forfeitures, in which authorities seize property they suspect is connected with criminal activity. The agency boasts on its website that in 2014, the program was responsible for the eradication of 3.9 million cultivated outdoor cannabis plants and 396,000 indoor plants. Authorities made 6,310 arrests connected to the program and seized more than $27.3 million in assets, according to the DEA. The Michigan House Judiciary Committee touched off a new effort to legalize dispensaries and edible forms of cannabis for medical marijuana patients Tuesday, sending 3 new bills to the House floor for consideration. The bills, containing tighter rules than in a failed 2014 proposal and an 8% excise tax on gross retail income of provisioning centers, is a compromise plan designed to overcome law enforcement opposition. A voter-approved medical marijuana law that took effect in 2008 doesn't specifically mention dispensaries or edible marijuana products, whose legality has been clouded by Michigan Supreme Court and appeals court rulings in recent years. Lawmakers are trying to pass legislation that clarifies the law. There would be 5 kinds of state licensees: grower, processor, provisioning center, secure transporter, and safety compliance facility. Chances the bills will pass are uncertain, but more promising than a year ago.
An opinion signed by Maryland Assistant Attorney General Catherine Rowe, obtained Wednesday, states counties have the power to decide where medical marijuana may be grown, processed, and dispensed, but cannot prohibit operations altogether. A proposed ordinance in Anne Arundel County would prevent the growing, processing, and dispensing of medical marijuana. Rowe wrote that while counties decide where medical marijuana facilities may be located through local planning and zoning laws, they are not allowed to impose restrictions that make it impossible to locate there. 3 of 7 councilmen are sponsoring another bill that would limit, but not prohibit, where medical marijuana facilities can go. Processing and dispensing of medical marijuana would be prevented within 1,000 feet of a public or private elementary, middle, or high school. Their bill would also limit dispensaries from operating 2,500 feet within one another. The Ho-Chunk Nation in Wisconsin has voted to change the rules on using marijuana on its tribal lands. Ho-Chunk announced Saturday that its general council voted to reverse a policy that made the use and sale of marijuana on tribal lands illegal. 63% of members voted in favor, 34% voted against, and 3% abstained. The vote comes about a month after members of the Menominee tribe endorsed possible legalization of marijuana for medicinal and recreational use on their northeastern Wisconsin reservation. Officials say the Ho-Chunk decision does not make the use of sale of marijuana legal yet on their tribal lands. Attorneys will be researching the implications of changing the ban. Police in Boyle County, Kentucky. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. That story will not fly. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015. I'm Russ Belville.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the 4th Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Today, as we go behind the headlines, we take a look right here in Portland, Oregon, where we are 8 days away from legal adult marijuana purchases in existing medical marijuana dispensaries. Our legislature passed a bill for early sales that within 3 months of us becoming legal to possess marijuana in July, we will be legal to buy marijuana and marijuana seedlings here in October. But it's not without some controversy, and that controversy revolves around the existing medical marijuana dispensary market, as if we're surprised. The issue that comes up is a item that is in the city council chambers tonight, where Mayor Charlie Hales and the City Council will be discussing a proposal that is very popular among the medical marijuana dispensary industry and was pushed hard by their lobbyists. And this is creating a 1,000-foot barrier from medical marijuana dispensaries and recreational pot shops, in addition to having to be 1,000 feet away from schools and other sorts of sensitive areas. The idea, of course, is to prevent there being a plethora of marijuana-related businesses all next to one another. But previously, the way this was going to work was that medical marijuana dispensaries had to be 1,000 feet away from each other, and pot shops had to be 1,000 feet away from each other, but they could be next to each other. And in fact, there were some businesses already looking at the option of having two properties right next to each other, one that's a recreational shop, another one that is a medical shop. But now, this proposal, which was pushed for by Amy Margolis, who's one of the lobbyists there, she's an attorney who works with cannabis industry members, and she says that if they don't create this 1,000-foot barrier between each other, then they say what did she say here? That it would create an unintended and unfortunate consequence. Others said you're setting up a dynamic that will punish people who paved the way, referring to the original medical marijuana dispensaries owners who've already gone through licensing and so forth. But there's kind of two sides to this. Their side is saying that by allowing the recreational shops to open up near their businesses, those dispensaries wouldn't have the shot at becoming the new recreational businesses. So some are trying to frame this as something that's going to be harmful to the dispensaries, but in the long run, it ends up being harmful to the patients. Basically, what's going to happen is this. Currently in Portland, Oregon, there are over 100 medical marijuana dispensaries, and they're in all the prime locations. I live in Northeast Portland off Sandy Boulevard. I can go one direction and there's at least 7 dispensaries that direction, and another direction there's 3 more. So if all marijuana distributors have to remain 1,000 feet from each other, where is my recreational pot shop going to open up? Now, we're good between now and the end of 2016 because medical shops will be able to sell to recreational consumers, although it will be with a 25% tax, and it'll be limited to a 1/4 ounce of flour, and we won't be able to buy medibles or extracts or tinctures or salves. But after 2016, if I want to go to a rec shop, where on Sandy Boulevard is it going to open up if it has to be 1,000 feet away from all the existing medical places on Sandy Boulevard that after 2017 I won't be able to shop at anymore? But in the long run, what happens is those existing medical shops, what they really want to do is make the move to becoming recreational shops. And so what they're fearing is if new recreational shops can set up right next to them, that's going to hurt their chances of pulling in the business by converting their own business to a recreational shop. And in the long run, if all of these medical shops eventually end up changing and becoming recreational shops, then the dynamic that you set up is the opposite. Where does the patient go to get their tax-free medicine? There's 10 dispensaries on Sandy Boulevard, but all of them will be charging 20% tax, the 17% state tax, and the 3% local tax that Portland is bound to add on. Are we going to have a situation where the only place a medical marijuana patient can go to get their tax-free medicine is to drive way the hell out to some industrial district that hasn't already been claimed yet? The simple solution to this is to have one system of pot shops and suppliers and growers and processors. Set the standards for that as high as they need to be for the medical marijuana patient. We recreational consumers will be fine with an overeducated bud tender. There's no problem with that. Have all shops sell to all customers and then just don't charge tax to the ones that have medical marijuana cards. Why does this need to be so difficult? By trying to create this artificial distinction between the two, we've only set them up to fight against each other.
Hide the dope!
We don't have any dope.
Then what did I just smoke?
All right, folks, it's 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone. Happy 4:20, Boise, Idaho. Happy 4:20, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Happy 4:20, Salt Lake City, Utah. 3 places that we're probably not going to see legalized marijuana anytime soon, so make the most of your 4:20 while you can. We're back with Drug War Data Mining right after this.
The Russ Belville Show, where the truth about marijuana gets more than a minute to speak.
The Fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com. You're listening to 420 Radio. Listen Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific for Canna Truths, podcasting at cannatruths.com. Canna Truths is your premier source for cannabis-related news and events around the U.S. and the world. Denton Ramsey is a writer for over 15 years and a cannabis activist, and began Canna Truths in December of 2011. Check our online listings for Canna Truths with Denton Ramsey from cannatruths.com. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
We all know that marijuana is safer than alcohol, tobacco, and even sugar. But did you know that marijuana is safer than taking selfies? There's this post up on Mashable today. It's entitled, "More people have died from selfies than shark attacks this year." Indeed, there have been a dozen deaths from people taking selfies, while there have only been 8 deaths from shark attacks this year. Of the people that have died taking selfies, 4 of them died from falls. People standing out on a ledge or not paying attention where they're at while they're trying to get their shot just perfect, and they fall and die. The most recent was a Japanese tourist who fell to his death while taking a selfie at the Taj Mahal. Gonna go out in style. Other causes of death by selfie include people who are hit by trains when they're trying to get the perfect action shot of them with the train in the background, or when they climb on top of a train or around train equipment and end up dying. There's the people's death by selfie that are caused when they shoot themselves, posing all tough guy with a gun. Those are just Darwinian evolution in action, if you ask me. And then there's the people who wreck their cars while taking a selfie. Again, Darwin Award winners there. Oh, wait. I take it all back. Nothing compares to the guy who got gored by a bull while trying to take a selfie during one of those running of the bulls events in Spain. Snap, snap, grin, grin. Whoops. So that led me to do just a little bit of Googling today to try to find out what other things out there are more dangerous than marijuana. What is marijuana safer than? What is marijuana safer than? So first of all, marijuana is safer than cockroaches. Yeah. In 2012, a Florida man choked to death on cockroach parts during a cockroach eating contest at a pet shop. Yes, of course it was a Florida man. Marijuana is safer than hay. In 2010, one of the founding members of ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, the cello player, was killed when a 1,300-pound round hay bale rolled down a hill and crushed him while he was in his van. Marijuana is safer than hay. Marijuana is safer than beavers. In 2013, a man in Belarus was attacked by a beaver that bit and severed an artery in his leg, causing him to bleed out and die. Marijuana is safer than beavers. Marijuana is safer than scarves. In Turkey, a university student was beheaded when she was riding a go-kart and the scarf got caught up in the drive shaft, twisted around, and decapitated her. Marijuana is safer than scarves. Marijuana is safer than video games. In 2012, a Chinese video gamer died following a 23-hour multiplayer marathon. And this wasn't the first time. There was another such death in China back in 2004. Marijuana is safer than sewers. Yeah, in 2012, a Russian couple working on their home sewage tank punched a hole through it. The man passed out from the sewage fumes and fell into the sewage tank. His wife tried to pull him out of the sewage tank. She passed out from the fumes, fell into the tank as well. They were both found drowned. Marijuana is safer than Segways. You know, the little roller cart things, little two-wheeled Segway thing? In 2010, a British man accidentally drove his Segway off of a cliff. He happened to be the owner of the Segway company. Marijuana is safer than toy helicopters. In 2013, a young man in Brooklyn died when his remote-controlled helicopter fell from the sky and its rotor blades slashed his throat. Marijuana is safer than bus stops. In 2014, a young man in England died after he ran into a bus stop while running to catch his bus. So the lesson here is enjoy taking that selfie while you smoke your weed. Just don't do anything dangerous while you're taking your selfie. And for those critics out there who'd say, yeah, what about the kid in Colorado who jumped off of the balcony? If you're going to count people that fell while they were taking selfies, don't you have to count the guy that fell when he was using a marijuana cookie? Okay, if that's the case, then there's your one. And we've already had 12 selfie deaths this year. Folks, the point isn't that marijuana is safe, although the prohibitionists will try to get you to argue that. Nothing is safe. As this story points out, lots of things can kill you, lots of things can harm you. Nothing's perfectly safe. But marijuana is safer than selfies, safer than scarves, safer than hay, and safer than cockroaches. I'll tell you, it's some pretty weird websites you got to get on to find out this data. How sad for some of these people, though, these simple accidents that go on. Please be careful with your cell phone. Pay attention to what you're doing. We have signs all around our trains here in Portland that say, don't let heavy metal become death by metal. And they don't let death metal become death by metal. A guy listening to his, cell phone with his music on. Don't let LOL become DOA. Someone texting as they go across the railroad tracks. We got a replay of Stephen D'Angelo's interview from yesterday about the Cannabis Manifesto. That's coming up next. Stick around.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome. NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
The best weapon you can have in the Prohibition War is your mind. Fill your head with the knowledge you need by checking out this latest entry in the Russ Belville Show's Reformer's Reader.
Welcome back, everybody. Today in the Reformer's Reader, we're taking a look at this groundbreaking new book called The Cannabis Manifesto, A New Paradigm for Wellness. And the author, you know him, you love him. It's Steve D'Angelo from Harborside Health Center, among many other enterprises. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Wonderful to be here again, Russ.
I love having you on the show. We always have great discussions, and I know you're promoting this book in a lot of outlets, and so probably in those outlets you have to kind of just defend the whole idea. You've got a friendly audience here at 420 Radio that probably subscribes to the Cannabis Manifesto, but tell people briefly what you mean by a manifesto for cannabis.
Well, you know, it's been about 20 years since Jack Herer published, actually more like 30 years since Jack published The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which at the time was, I think, the most complete summation that we had of the history and the science and political developments around cannabis. But I thought it was time for an update, for us to take a look at those issues, since we've seen a lot of changes in all of those areas, and produce a document that hopefully will pour some gasoline on this fire of reform that's already burning.
Now, a large part of the Cannabis Manifesto, and it's even in the subtitle, A Paradigm for Wellness, you discuss the idea of cannabis use being about wellness, and I'm wondering, a lot of people have heard me talk about this issue as well. How does this differ from the tagline we've heard in the past, all use is medical, something Dennis Perone used to say a lot?
Well, I think it's a related idea, but I think that wellness theory is a more nuanced expression of it. Essentially, what wellness theory says is that the vast majority of cannabis use doesn't fall neatly into either medical cannabis or recreational cannabis, which, is really just a code word for just getting high. And, I'm talking about things, of course, like cancer and epilepsy and Alzheimer's and insomnia that are obviously wellness issues. But there's a whole range of things that, for me, don't fall neatly into either one of those categories. And I think about things like extending my sense of patience, or waking up my sense of playfulness, or enhancing my enjoyment of the taste of a meal or the sound of music or the touch of my lover's skin. For me, those things aren't just getting high, and they're not medical. They're somewhere in this realm that I call overlooked wellness benefits of cannabis.
So with the wellness idea, maybe there would be a counter from, say, parents that would say, hey, I don't want my kid getting well. How does wellness fit into the idea of responsible use?
Well, I think it fits very neatly into the idea of responsible use. And for me, there's a simple three-part test that anybody can use to gauge whether their use is responsible. And let me stress, It's up to everybody to gauge whether their own use is responsible. Step one, what is the effect that I'm looking for from the cannabis? I mean, it could be that you want to calm your stomach down. It could be that you're getting ready to go to a concert. It could be that you're getting ready to take a walk in the park, or that you just want to see what the effects of a new strain are. Well, what is that effect? Number one. Number two, is that effect going to have a positive benefit on what I'm trying to do now, at this time, in this place? So, for example, a benefit of cannabis that many people use it for is the ability to help you relax and go to sleep. That could be a benefit at nighttime just before you're going to bed, but it might not be a benefit first thing in the morning when you're getting ready to go to work. So is the benefit is the benefit something that's appropriate at that time and at that place? And number three, just something that we should always double check ourselves on with any human activity, and that is, are we being respectful of the people around us? Are we consuming cannabis in a time and a place and a manner that's not going to impinge on other people's social space?
We're speaking with Stephen DeAngelo, the author of The Cannabis Manifesto, A New Paradigm for Wellness, and there's a special offer. If you go to cannabismanifesto.buzz, not only can you buy the book there, you can get yourself a free .buzz domain registration. So cannabismanifesto.buzz if you want to copy this excellent book. And Stephen, I got to say that, I agree with you on the point you make in the book about there's no such thing as recreational cannabis. And for me, the thing I've never liked about the term recreational cannabis is it seems to me it implies frivolity. It's something frivolous, like, camping or taking an RV somewhere isn't something you have to have in your life. It's something you could give up. It's a privilege. It's like I say, a frivolity. Take me through that idea and how you feel recreational cannabis is a misnomer.
So, I'm sorry, Russ, ask me that question one more time.
The idea that recreational cannabis is kind of a misnomer for how people, even the people that aren't, seriously sick or disabled, just like to get high, how recreational is just a bad word for that.
Right. So, when you take a look at this, what we find is that the largest neurotransmitter system in the human body is the endocannabinoid system. This system produces many of the same compounds or very similar compounds to the cannabinoids you find in the plant, and it manages all of the cannabinoids in our body. And it's an incredibly important part of our physiology. In fact, every living creature on the planet, except insects, has an endocannabinoid system. And its purpose is the same in all cases, which is to maintain a stable internal environment. So it's very difficult for me to see how you could describe a substance that interacts with the largest neurotransmitter system in the human body as an elective leisure time pursuit. I think that we're dealing with something that is much more profound here. And you're right. One of my huge concerns with the idea that you describe of describing cannabis as recreational is that it becomes elective. It becomes something that you can choose to do or not choose to do. And I think that in actuality, cannabis is essential for the preservation and maintenance of human health.
As we move forward in legalizing cannabis throughout the country, we've got 4 states that have done it so far in a fairly free market sort of way, even with licenses and restrictions on how many there can be and so forth. It's been fairly free market. Ohio has kind of blown up the reform world in proposing a legalization that is very oligopolistic, very controlled by a small cadre of rich people. And throughout the world, there's other examples as well, like, Spanish collectives, Amsterdam coffee shops. In your mind, Steve, what is there a separation between the civil rights aspect of ending marijuana arrests and the business model by which we do so, or are they entwined? Are they one and the same?
I'm not sure whether I can drill down on that, but I can certainly tell you that, in my opinion, schemes like the one that's been put forward in Ohio are repugnant to me. As an American, as a believer in the free enterprise system, the idea that laws would be written in this country, whether by voters or by the legislature, for the economic benefit of specific individuals or specific entities, that's not the way we do things here. That's the way we do things in Vladimir Putin's Russia, but that's not American. It's not okay. So I have real problems with that approach. I think that the role of government is and should be to create a level playing field for different business models to compete. And the free market will sort out which one of those models is most effective at delivering consumers the goods they want at the best prices.
So is it repugnant enough that you would encourage people to vote against it, knowing that that would continue prohibition, arrests, and tickets?
I think voters in Ohio are in a really, really difficult spot, and I don't think that I could give them advice on which way to go. I can tell them that if it were me, I would not pull the lever in favor of a measure that gave a monopoly over cannabis to a small group of people. But I'm not. I can't take an advocacy position on that because at the same time we have a great deal of ongoing suffering.
Okay, let's talk on another topic here about the framing that we use, because a lot of what you talk about in Cannabis Manifesto, without describing it as framing, is actually just framing. How do we present this issue to the people at large, most of whom don't know a whole lot about cannabis, and what they do know is wrong. And one of the things you point out is the negative connotations of certain words: pot, weed, marijuana, dope. Give folks your feelings on the words we use to describe our movement.
Well, language is really important because language defines our thought, and words come along with a whole train of associations. And so when people who have for decades and decades associated the word marijuana with criminality, with deviance, with danger, with addiction, with insanity, when you try and change that stereotype, it can be very, very useful to also introduce a new term that doesn't carry the same stigma along with it. And in our case, we have a very, very convenient term, which is the word cannabis, which is a beautiful word and is scientifically accurate. It takes the emotion out of the debate, and it allows us to really approach it more dispassionately in arguments. So I think it also goes to our own self-conception. Who are we, and why are we using this substance? And I think that words like pot and weed, which I've used my whole life and probably continue to, still carry a shadow of the underground with them. And hopefully we'll invent new language that'll be more appropriate as we move forward into the light.
I've often considered whether or not, certain words we call ourselves, like stoner or pothead, are kind of like how the African-American community looks at the N-word. Like, it's okay for us to say, but not for the outside. Do you agree or disagree with that idea?
I totally agree with that idea, except I would not encourage people to continue using their terms and try to reclaim them. For me, stoner is a stereotype that indicates someone who is lazy, someone who is unambitious, someone who is irresponsible, someone who is unreliable, someone who is loutish and insensitive and not very intelligent. Well, in my experience, most cannabis consumers are exactly the opposite of that description. Most people I know who consume cannabis are very responsible. They're very reliable. They're high-achieving. They're hardworking. They're healthy, and they're smart. So why would we want to describe ourselves as a stoner, say, instead of a high achiever?
Good point. Steve D'Angelo is the author of the book, is The Cannabis Manifesto, A New Paradigm for Wellness. You can get it at cannabismanifesto.buzz and get your own .buzz domain while you're at it. Steve D'Angelo, thanks for everything you do, all the hard work you put in, all the media appearances. We are winning, and you have a large part in that. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you for giving voice to all of us, Russ.
You're very welcome. We'll see you soon at whatever the next event is. I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
See you down the trail.
All right. Cannabismanifesto.buzz. Check it out, folks. It's a great book. Great book. Good framing ideas in there. When we come back, Radical Rant. God damn the pusher, man. We're going to talk about Big Pharma.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Get the latest updates on the Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking the Russ Belville Show on... The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
420 Radio is brought to you by Sacred Serum, who is focused on creating elegant and sophisticated cannabis solutions through its line of dispensers and vaporizers that come preloaded with the world's finest cannabis concentrate. Sacred Serum's concentrate is made on pharmaceutical-grade supercritical CO2 extraction machines that use absolutely no butane or other toxic chemicals. The Vesica, the company's innovative new way to dab and frost, is now available in dispensaries across California. Sacred Serum, elegance and sophistication concentrated.
In the interest of fair and balanced journalism, the Russ Belville Show presents the anti-drug public service announcement of the day.
It's yours?
No,
My mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not...
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
This has been the anti-drug public service announcement of the day. To cure this sort of reefer madness, listen to the Russ Belville Show every weekday on 420radio.org. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. It's 420 somewhere. You're listening to 420radio.org.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale.
And one major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant. Well, today in the Radical Rant, I've got a whole bunch of thoughts about what's going on here in the state of Oregon with regard to our marijuana legalization. And for the moment, I have to take off that practical hat that I wear, that sensible, cooperative sort of guy that understands that, you know, it's going to take a while and we have a whole bunch of people that still believe reefer madness and we got to take the baby steps. We're going to forget about that for a second. And instead, I'm going to take a look at this as someone who knows far more about marijuana than 99.99% of the people out there, most particularly the people in our Oregon state government. The first thing that catches my attention is something that was passed on to me from the Oregon Health Authority, OHA, which has produced a new flyer, a new poster. And as far as I understand, this is going to be posted at our marijuana outlets by the Oregon Health Authority. Now, it's got a little pot leaf kind of symbol at the top of it. And then in big letters, it says, "Don't pass it on." Don't pass it on, right? And then the subhead is, "You can keep your child safe and healthy by not using marijuana while you are pregnant or breastfeeding." What's this? Okay, now, before we get too deeply into this, let's just say right off the bat, it's not like anyone is saying, hey, pregnant moms, you ought to go smoke pot. However, there is a lot to be desired in the difference between moms smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol and what harm that can have on the fetus versus what they are pretending to think they know about marijuana and pregnant women. In the text of this ad or this placard or whatever the hell it is, poster, they got 3 columns. One that says, when you're pregnant, it may harm your baby if you use marijuana in any form and at any time during your pregnancy. This includes smoking, eating, and vaping marijuana. There is no known safe amount of marijuana use during pregnancy. Actually, that would be better phrased in the contra. There is no known dangerous amount of marijuana use during pregnancy. We don't know anything. To say there's no known safe use is a little disingenuous when we don't know that it's dangerous either. There's all sorts of conflicting data about this, about whether or not the newborns have lower birth weight or whether they actually do better in life. My general theory on this is if marijuana was any serious, significant harm to the fetus, the Rastafarians would have died out years ago. Yet every place I go, there's hippie kids. I go to all these events, I see little hippie kids. Obviously, the pot is not having that serious a problem. And it goes back to something I was mentioning yesterday about alcohol and drunk driving. Maybe it wasn't yesterday, Truth About Driving, a while back. In that we came up with drunk driving laws because we as a society went, holy shit, look at all these people wrecking and dying on alcohol. Oh my God, they're getting drunk and they're dying. We ought to do something about this. And a similar thing happened with fetal alcohol syndrome. We kind of noticed, hey, look at all these fucked up babies coming from women who drank a lot. Damn, maybe we ought to do something about this. This situation is just looking for a problem that doesn't exist. Nobody has gone around saying, oh my God, since marijuana smoking has gone up so much, X, Y, or Z has happened to infants. Nothing. We had a massive increase in the amount of marijuana that's consumed in the United States between 1960 and 1980. A huge increase from 1960 to 1980, from a few thousand people who smoked pot to millions of people who smoked pot. Did we have any corresponding problems with the generation that was born during those 20 years? Did we see lower developmental scores, worse IQs, more dropping out, more social problems, more No! We didn't see any correlation. So they're looking for a problem that's just not there. Their middle column says, if you're breastfeeding, the THC in marijuana can get into your breast milk and may harm your baby. THC is another name for tetrahydrocannabinol, parentheses, THC, parentheses, the chemical in marijuana that makes you high. That's so funny to me. How redundant. THC is another name for tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. Thank you. But again, breast milk contains natural cannabinoids in it already. Scientists theorize that the anandamide that's passed along through breast milk to the infant is what's responsible for the suckling response, what's responsible for keeping the young infant hungry and wanting more food. So I'm not so sure how harmful it's going to be. And if you're going to scare women about this situation, you ought to have some data to back you up on it. Another part says, talk to your doctor if you're pregnant or thinking about becoming pregnant, or if you're breastfeeding and you need help to stop using marijuana. If you're using marijuana as a medicine and want to talk about choices that do not risk your harming, if you're using marijuana as a medicine and want to talk about choices that do not risk harming your baby. Okay, it's a sentence fragment. I gotcha. Or an Oregon Health Authority not hiring English majors, but all right. So now we're implying in our third column that marijuana is so terribly addictive that you can't stop now that you know that it's terrible for your baby. And then the bottom part of this just concludes by saying, if your child eats or drinks marijuana products, call the Poison Center hotline as soon as possible. Reefer madness still exists, even in the legalized states. Another example of this reefer madness is this craze about having to make sure that a marijuana shop has this 1,000-foot force field around it, into which nothing but potheads may enter. We got to keep 1,000 feet from a school, a park, a playground, a library, a church, a residence, another pot shop. And I just wonder why. Why? Why is that? Because living right here in Portland, I can go downtown Portland and I can find sections of Portland where there are multiple alcohol outlets within the same block or two. Multiple strip clubs within the same block or two. Multiple lottery operations. We have like video lottery stuff here in Oregon. Everything, well, basically it's like the slot machines that you get in Vegas, pretty much, right? So we have multiple of those outlets all over the place that can all be within 1,000 feet from each other. Liquor and titties and gambling, it can all be mixed together, can all be within 1,000 feet from each other. And in some cases, I find these things within 1,000 feet of playgrounds and schools and libraries and churches and residences and so forth. Hell, my own house right here, I can walk out of my house within 1,000 feet. There are 7 different places I can buy an alcoholic beverage. 4 of them, I can drink it on site. So why is there this sudden need for this 1,000-foot nerfing of the world around a pot shop? And the other thing that's frustrating about that is, given the regulations that we get as far as how our display signage can look and what we can do with the outside and the facade and all of that, when it comes to most pot shops, aside from the green cross outside of them, you wouldn't know it from any other shop in the strip mall. And these places are carding the kids, so the kids can't even go inside them. And the places have these very strict security requirements. You got to have security cams with this amount of resolution and pointing at every location and 24-hour and instant access and all these different things. So what's the fear that if a pot shop was 800 feet away from a school, what terrible thing occurs? Why, the kids might have to walk by a pot shop and see that pot shops exist, that adults go into and buy pot. But if we put it 1,000 feet away, they'll never know. They'll never know that exists. Out of sight, out of mind. A kid can apparently only see 999 feet. That must be the rationale here. And lately, this Portland thing about pot shops being too close to each other or too close to medical dispensaries, and medical's going to be a separate building than a recreational building, and those two buildings can't be near each other. And so now we've set up the recreational and the medical businesses to fight for the prime locations. It's basically a protectionism act for the existing medical places so that they can convert to being recreational places first. They can get that recreational business, not have to compete with a new business setting up. And so what that eventually means is that we have mostly or almost all recreational businesses and very few medical businesses. That, of course, benefits the city of Portland and other cities that want to make that 20% tax on all marijuana purchases. Why not have the medical marijuana patient have to go in there and buy 20%? If he doesn't want to pay tax, he can go way the hell out to Gresham or wherever the hell else they're going to have the tax-free medical dispensary. It's just really weird having the transition from marijuana being treated like, plutonium pornography, and all the strange laws and regulations and compromises and hidden agendas and protectionism acts that have to follow to just give us a place to buy pot, for God's sake. I'll give you more ideas on that coming up in Toker Talk Radio, but that's all the time we got for our podcast hour. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. For everyone here in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon, and Rolla J Studios, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation. Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Yes, my cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio, continuing our topic from the earlier rant, which is just my generic, I'm just this is a grab bag of rant right for today. I got to be honest with you. I'm only able to give 96% for today's show. I apologize. Couldn't give you 100%. I'm missing about 4%. Got a big meeting tonight for Portland Normal happening at a brand new location, and I'm trying to organize a press release for the October 1st early sales. So had a lot of distractions earlier today. My apologies, but we do as best we can here at Rolla J Studios. And talking more about this medical recreational, the implementation of legalization here in the state of Oregon and elsewhere. And one thing that's becoming perfectly clear to me, and that is this distinction between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana needs to end. There is no such thing as medical marijuana. There is no such thing as recreational marijuana. There is marijuana. That's it. I mean, oranges can be a food if you're hungry. Oranges can be a medicine if you've got scurvy. But an orange is an orange. And marijuana is marijuana. This artificial distinction between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana is really a distinction between medical consumers and adult consumers. It's the reason why the consumer is choosing to use the marijuana that makes the consumer different. It doesn't make the product different. And it makes no more sense to have a separate shop where medical marijuana is sold and a separate shop where recreational marijuana is sold than it does to have a vegetable stand or a fruit stand for oranges for healthy people and a separate fruit stand for people with scurvy. Makes no sense. And in creating that artificial distinction in the product, you only enact regulatory and economic barriers to the most efficient free market distribution of that product. Imagine any other product if it had to be completely manufactured, processed, distributed and sold in two separate supply chains for whatever reason. Same exact product, two separate supply chains. How about if there were two separate publishers for Stevie D'Angelo's new book? Exact same book, exact same cover, exact same words in it, but one book is printed for women and the other book is printed for men. Only women can buy the book at the women's bookshop and only men can buy books at the men's bookshop. How much more expensive would books be? There's no good reason to keep medical and recreational separate. That does not mean there's no good reason to not treat the different customers differently. What I propose for any state that is considering legalization of marijuana is to avoid like the plague this distinction of medical versus recreational and instead create yourself marijuana regulations that apply to adults. Then create a medical designation through a program, through a doctor's recommendation, whatever, that allows people younger than 21 to participate in the market and gives those people a tax cut or break altogether. Have one store, one set of, here's your growers, they grow marijuana. Here's your processors, they process it, they cook it up into edibles, they make tinctures, whatever. They send it to marijuana stores. And when you go to the marijuana store, if you show your medical marijuana card, they don't push the tax button. Why does it need to be any different than that? Now, I'll get complaints sometimes from people that don't like this line of reasoning from me. And they'll say, well, because the medical consumer can't be, they can't be having any pesticides or fungicides or mites or any of the molds. It could be really dangerous for them. They've got really compromised immune systems and such. Right. As if I want to suck that shit down? No, I don't want it either. Or I'll hear, oh, well, the medical consumer has many more questions about which strain is going to help which ailment and how it's going to affect their different medical conditions and so forth. Okay. Might I not also have questions? Is this sativa going to keep me awake at night? Is this indica going to help the pain in my lower back? Even though I'm not a registered patient, I might be buying marijuana for medical uses. And right now in the state of Washington, if you don't have that medical rec and you're not going to a medical dispensary, if you're going to an I-502 shop, they can't tell you any medical benefits. They're forbidden. It's insane. How about this? How about we set up the one system to rule them all, like Lord of the Rings, right? We set up the medical system. We set up the marijuana system. We set the standards for production, potency, purity, all of that. We set those standards at the medical level. The adult consumers aren't going to mind. Like, oh, so you've made all of our product medical grade? Thank you. Thank you for making sure that it's pure and it's potent and it hasn't been, contaminated with chemicals and such. Thank you. I'm sure the recreational consumers will be fine with that. Make the standard of service match the medical need. If some of your customers have a ton of medical questions and the rest of them don't, they're not going to mind the person getting them the bud having that knowledge. So if I'm just going in to get weed to get high, it doesn't hurt me in any way if the guy selling it to me knows that it's a super silver haze that has a certain level of cannabigerol that's helpful for people with intestinal disorders or whatever the hell. Fine, great. Doesn't hurt the recreational consumer. One system, medical standards, tax breaks for patients. That's all we need to do.
Five of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Herb Thrasher, and you're listening to 420 Radio. Bongs up!
Imagine life without taxes. Let New Era Certified Public Accountants, NewEraCPAs.com, handle your Cannabis 280E and tax strategy. Get your business prepared with New Era CPA's Cannabis Finance Bootcamp. NewEraCPAs.com. With years of experience in the industry, we are one of the nation's leading accounting firms for growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies from Washington to California. NewEraCPAs.com. 420 Radio is listener-supported 24-hour internet radio. Our mission is to provide exposure to the activists nationwide fighting for the end of marijuana prohibition. You can help sustain our mission with a one-time donation to 420 Radio at 420radio.org/donate. You can also become a monthly VIP member at 420radio.org/donate and get access to our members-only content. Your donation keeps our stream and podcast free at 420radio.org/donate.
As a police officer, I walked the beat, served on the Vice Squad and SWAT team, and became an expert on drug addiction. I saw firsthand the effects of Ohio's destructive marijuana laws. Simply put, they don't work. Ohio spends over $100 million each year on this failed effort. It's time for marijuana reform, so law enforcement can spend their time cracking down on real criminals and making Ohio a safer place for our families. Vote yes on 3.
Everybody, that's music from 10 Foot Ganja Plant with Set Me Free. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show. Later tonight, I will be out at the Analog on Hawthorne Boulevard here in Portland, participating in our monthly Portland Normal meeting. We'll have photos and audio from the meeting on all my social media channels, so follow me at Radical Russ everywhere. Quick update on a story we did yesterday. We told you about Martin Shkreli. Martin Shkreli is the man who hiked the price of Daraprim, a pill that's used to combat toxoplasmosis, mostly among AIDS patients. He hiked the pill by 5,500%, from $13.50 a pill to $750 a pill. Well, there's been a lot of outrage about this, and the breaking news now is that Shkreli says that he's going to roll back the price hike in response to nationwide outrage. In response to nationwide outrage, heard so much from so many about what a money-grubbing asshole he is, has backed down. He's been denounced by Hillary Clinton, by Bernie Sanders, just about every news organization. And no reports yet on how much he will lower the price. This doesn't say he's going to back it down back to $13.50. Just says he's under fire, says he will lower the cost of the life-saving medication. Did not say what the new price would be, but expected a determination to be made over the next few weeks. So you think it's going to go back to $13.50? I doubt it. So he'll cut it down to $200 and say what a great man he is. What a great guy he is for cutting it down to just $200. But the thing about this story is there's a much bigger story behind it, and that is the failure of the American healthcare system to treat the least of us, to be a workable system for the most good. We've got listeners from Canada that will tell you about their Canadian system. We got friends out in Britain who will talk about the National Health Service, and they're not perfect. There's always things you can find in any system that's got a problem. But as far as dealing with the most people needing the most health care, these systems are far outperforming the United States. And in this example, there's just the prescription drug example is one of the highlights of how we have come to worship capitalism over our fellow man. Remember when Medicare was blocked from negotiating higher drug or lower drug prices through the Obamacare, some of the compromises they made on it? They've been wanting to do this for a long time. Other countries leverage the power of their national health services to negotiate for lower prices from the drug companies on many popular drugs. But the United States is one of the few that does not. This has led to some of the following. In Canada, you can get a pill of Enbrel. I don't know if this is pills or if it's let's see the data here. Well, it just says drug prices. Cost per month. There it is. Cost per month. Okay, so a month's worth of Enbrel, which is an autoimmune drug, and it's very similar to Daraprim. It's usually used by HIV/AIDS patients. In Canada, that's going to run you $1,600 for the month. In the UK, $1,100 for the month. Here in the US, $3,000. Celebrex, pain reliever, $51 in Canada, $330 in the United States. Copaxone for multiple sclerosis, $1,400 in Canada, $3,900 in the US. Cymbalta for depression, $110 in Canada, $46 in the UK, $240 in the United States. Gleevec, the drug for leukemia, $1,100 in Canada, $2,600 in the UK, $8,500 in the United States. Humira for arthritis, almost $2,000 in Canada, about $1,100 in the UK, $3,000 in the US. And Nexium for acid reflux disease, $30 in Canada, $30 for your Nexium, $305 in the United States. How is it that we have higher drug prices in the United States than any other comparable country? Oh yeah, I remember free market capitalism. It's a free market. Remember how the free market's going to lead to competition, and all these guys will compete for their customers, and they'll lower their prices to attract their customers, and the market will work out the efficiencies, yada, yada, yada. Seems to never happen. You know why? Because there's no such thing as a free market in drugs. When you need a life-saving drug, you don't get the choice of shopping around. You don't get the choice of waiting or going without. You must purchase this product. This creates an inelastic demand for the product. Econ 101 will tell you, in such a situation, if you can restrict the supply of such thing with an inelastic demand, you can create a massive price for it. And that's what we've got in the United States. Folks, there's just some things that should not be for profit. Profit should exist. It should absolutely exist. We should absolutely have a profit motive to encourage growth in an economy. But there are some things for which the profit motive should not encourage growth. Private prison industries. We shouldn't encourage profit based on locking up more people. Healthcare. We shouldn't encourage profit by managing someone's symptoms. We should cure them. Management should be as affordable as possible, and a last resort to a cure. Fire protection, police protection, army, education, basic food, clothing, and shelter is something that should not be for profit. Governments are formed among men for many reasons, and one of them is to promote the general welfare. It's right there in our founding documents. Promote the general welfare, the well-being of the people. And too many people in this country see that as, oh, we're going to subsidize the takers, the lazy people. Work hard. People on welfare are depending on you. No, that's not what this is all about. This is about investment. We learned early on with private fire departments that if your house wasn't insured, your house would burn down and burn down someone else's house. We learned that taking care of each other was the best way to take care of ourselves in the long run. You want an economy that grows. You want a healthy, educated populace. But maybe I smoke too much pot.
Yeah, baby.
As you can probably guess, I'm excited as hell about Bernie Sanders running for president. Where before you couldn't even say socialist without being considered to be a godless atheist communist. Now we're actually having substantive discussions about democratic socialist policies that are completely uncontroversial in most of the rest of the world.
Hey, it's Herb Thrasher, and this is 420radio.org.
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details. The Fingerboard Extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard Extension has National, Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard Extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Well, folks, Gordon Green is out there getting the Music Planet prepared for us, but he can't call in today because of work, so we're just going to go straight to the tune. This is Disraeli and the Small Gods with Nevermind.
Don't your heads like they're hitting the wall.
You might see me walking around with a slight limp. It's not a G thing, bruv, I've done my ankling. A bit thrown like the dice in the I Ching. I'm not sleeping while my head is tangling. I need an aspirin, bruv, I need a Saturday. A cup of tea to drink, possibly a Jaffa cake. Or just an evening alone, I've had a manic day. It's been an age since I was chilled enough to masturbate. baby, come here, I love you, my stinky tits. You can help me with my problem, come to think of it. Rinky dink, sugar plum, twinkle clit. Did I mean stinky tits? Sorry, I've been a dick. Sorry, that was worse than dreadful. It's my stress levels, it's my work schedule. But my desk head full of birds, unsettled, unearthed. I'm dizzy, I'm in effect, effectual. But come on.
Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance, cause it's a very, very short life. Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance, cause it's a very, very short life.
I move fast, all the flies on me are blue ass. Kid that turned pages till he got to the roof part. Hit the curbs naked with the sock on his doodah.
It's a wonderful night for a moon dance.
Cherubims serenade us on a sketchily tune heart. Venus plays the bass string strung between two stars. Jesus levitates on a fungus of blue hearts. And Sarah Palin's abducted in Utah. Pardon? I said welcome to the Terradome. Never give acid to a man with the megaphone. He will get frantic and then he won't let it go. If you ever seen a rapper's head explode. Roll up! And when the crowd rise, I hope that they've been entertained and found me useful. Like safety information on a train, cause to be truthful, I crave just a little taste of fame, then it hit me. Ego is a waste of brains.
Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance, cause it's a very, very short life. Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance, cause it's a very, very short life. Very short life. Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance. It's a very, very short life. Never mind, it doesn't matter what you look like. All that matters is you dance. It's a very, very short life.
Hey, what's up? It's Herb Thrasher, and you're listening to 420 Radio.
Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
You're listening to 420 Radio.
Listen Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific for Century of Lies, podcasting at drugtruth.net. Pioneering marijuana radio activist Dean Becker continues his illustrious career, interviewing reform luminaries on his Century of Lies and Cultural Baggage shows from Pacifica's KPFT in Houston. Check our online listings for Century of Lies with Dean Becker from drugtruth.net. At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
Welcome back, everybody. Half past here at Rolla J Studios. Revolution with Sky is the Limit playing there in the background. And we got some breaking news here. The Portland City Council has tabled for another week their provision to require 1,000-foot barriers between medical and recreational shops. So they're not going forward with the thing that a dispensary has to be 1,000 feet from a pot shop and vice versa. They will stay currently with dispensaries have to be 1,000 feet from each other and pot shops have to be 1,000 feet from each other. And this comes from Lindsay Reinhart, who says, myself and two other activists delayed the Portland City Council ordinance vote for another week for them to amend the bad language. No word yet on what parts they are amending. But the fact that they're not moving forward at all at this point is at least good news to prevent that 1,000-foot barrier from happening. I don't know, this 1,000-foot stuff, like if they don't take that out, right? You could have a pot shop next to a recreational dispensary, but that would be it. There'd be two places. So this idea that, because one of the examples they give is that they don't want to have we have this particular section out in North Portland where they have tons of these lottery places like Lottery Row, right? Basically a gambling center in a strip mall. And they don't want that kind of stuff to happen, but this wouldn't be able to happen. You'd only be able to have two spots, one recreational, one medical in one particular 1,000-foot zone. Because if those two were next to each other, you couldn't put a third medical or recreational next to them because they'd be within 1,000 feet of each of those, right? So we've already got a 1,000-foot rule to keep from having too many pot shops in one place. The most you can have with this is two in one place. What's the harm in that? I mean, if you are going to insist on there being separate recreational and separate medical, then what's the harm in having one next to another? So the people that are really against this, of course, are the existing medical dispensary owners. Their agenda is that, hey, I've got a place, I've got traffic, I've got a shop, I want to switch from being medical to being recreational. And they're worried that some other guy is going to show up, well capitalized, and open up a shop near them within 1,000 feet of them, and take all the recreational customers before they can make the transition to being a recreational place. They feel like they should get some sort of bonus since they were ahead of the curve. They already are licensed for medical, that they should be able to just move ahead and be the recreational places. And they don't want competition. Well, tough. We as consumers want to get the best deal possible, and if the situation exists that a medical place, all the medical places have already taken all the good zoning locations, where are we supposed to shop for our recreational marijuana? Or vice versa, if all these medical shops turn into recreational shops, where the medical person's supposed to go to get tax-free purchases? I would just hope eventually these people recognize how stupid it is to try to keep them separate. Solve the problem. Say pot shops can't be within 1,000 feet of other pot shops. Make all pot shops just pot shops. Don't charge tax to the patients. Boom, we're done. Why does this have to be so difficult? It's because the people who are already in the medical side got theirs, and they want to keep getting theirs, and they want to keep having their market share. And you know, bless them, that's what they're, you know, going to want to do. They're a business, of course. But keeping this artificial distinction between medical and recreational is just throwing a spanner into the works and making this more difficult than it needs to be. Frankly, I'm envious of Ohio going straight from decrim to medical and recreational at the same time, and not having to go through all of this. How do we transition from medical to recreational? This continued separation also only incentivizes people to make a mockery of the medical side. If it turns out that all the shops that are near me are medical, and the one that I would have to shop at recreational is way the hell out of town somewhere, that's incentivizing me to find a friend who's got a medical card to go shopping for me. If we continue to have some sort of restriction that says, oh, you can't buy potent edibles, like if they try to do something, well, on the recreational side, you can have a 10 milligram Chiba Chew, but over on the medical side, you can have a 100 milligram chew. If they do crap like that, you're just going to see more incentivization of people to want to cheat the medical system. Having two systems means, in one fashion or another, one system will be superior to the other. It just can't not be. There cannot be two exactly identical systems. If there were, why have two systems? So if you're going to have two systems, one of them's going to have an advantage over the other. In location, in price, in being tax-free, in selection. And it may be the medical side or it may be the recreational side. You know, maybe all these medical places are really in it to be recreational producers. They all switch to be recreational, and now the medical gets screwed by not having as many locations to shop, having to go farther to get what they need, right? So have one system for everybody. Let those shops be 1,000 feet from each other, like they already are. With our 1,000-foot rule here in Portland, we've got a pretty good, assortment of pot shops to go to in most neighborhoods. It's not too far to go find some marijuana. But having this artificial distinction is only going to make it worse for everyone involved. Speaking of making things worse and the transitions in marijuana, there was a story that I brought to you a few weeks ago about how Portland was going to have a marijuana strip club. Yeah, there's going to be a marijuana strip club out there on Killingsworth and 82nd Avenue. They have recently posted to their Facebook page that their lawyers informed them there can be no indoor marijuana smoking, which anybody could have told them, right? You can't exactly have a strip club outside, right? I guess you could. Maybe you could have it surrounded by walls and, open air. But basically, the idea of smoking weed and watching naked women is not going to happen here in Portland anytime soon, at least in a public venue. And it's just, it's just frustrating, to get to this point. And I know it's first world problems to complain about this stuff when you're talking about people in Texas or Georgia or wherever you are, where you can still do serious jail time for weed. But it's just weird. It's a weird situation to be in where you're legal, but you're not accepted. You're legal so long as you stay in your basement. Don't let anyone see that you're using pot. Don't drive anywhere. And you can't enjoy your pot at any entertainment activity. Only at home. That's the only place It's the only place we're going to let you do it. And in a sense, what we've been characterized as is drug addicts who will allow to be drug addicts at their home. And that's it. Because your addiction is so terrible and sets such a bad example for the children. We can't have you running around in public with everyone else. And that's a weird place to be. In a sense, it's almost weirder than when we were criminals, right? Because when marijuana was illegal, at least while you were hiding in the basement was for your safety, right? At least why you were denigrated in society is because you were committing crimes. Even though they're not crimes, they were defined as such, and that stamped you with criminal, and criminal in this society is bad. So there was a reason. There was a reason for you to be discriminated against and sequestered. That wasn't your fault, right? It had to do with the law making it criminal. But now the law says it's legal. The law says there's nothing wrong with the marijuana itself, and that leaves the discrimination and the sequestration to tell us that there's something wrong with us. Do you get the distinction? You get where I'm going on this? Right? Before, you were discriminated against because you were a lawbreaker. Now you're discriminated against because you're a pothead. And maybe it's a slight distinction, but it's something I can feel. It's just something weird about being legal, but now culturally restricted. And well, I should say legally restricted too. These are the laws. These are the ordinances that are being passed that say we have to be 1,000 feet from everything and can't be in any sort of public thing where somebody might consume alcohol sometime. And it becomes harder and harder to reconcile. And maybe this is what accelerates the legalization movement and keeps fueling it over the next decade or so. Is this cognitive dissonance of it being legal but being forbidden? Maybe that's what gets us over the next hump, because when you become legal, and as society recognizes it as legal, it can't help but compare it to the other legal substance, alcohol. And those comparisons can't not help us to make further gains throughout the society. When we continue to press this issue, they're going to have to ask, wait a minute, why do we have the Oktoberfest where parents are running around drinking massive steins of beer and kids are with them and hanging out and it's all good and it's okay? Why is it that all throughout Portland, we can go to movie theaters? We have movie theaters here where you can get a pizza and a beer or two and drink your beer in the movie theater watching the movie. Why we accept alcohol so easily and so gracefully? For the most part, we do. I know people get into wrecks and get drunk and pukey and all that, but for the most part, we accept alcohol in this society pretty well. We function on it pretty well. It's become part of the fabric of our society. So that makes it so much weirder to think that the safer substance can't be that way.
The beginning of the end started in 1996 when California legalized weed for so-called medical purposes. 16 years later, Washington and Colorado legalized it outright and let people sell it from storefronts. And what has been the result?
The generation of millions of dollars in tax revenue for the states and creation of hundreds of new jobs in a growing multi-billion-dollar industry?
No. Well, yes, but at what cost?
Let's see. The cost of all that police time and money that's now spent going after real criminals and prisons with enough room to hold them all?
No. Well, yes, but look at what it's done to the people.
You mean that fewer of them are dying of alcohol, tobacco, and prescription-related causes since they've switched to cannabis, and many more are receiving medical benefit from a cheap, non-toxic healing herb?
No. Well, yes to all of that, but I can smell pot from my backyard, and I can't tell my kids not to do it because it's illegal.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Herb Thrasher, and I've got a bong, and you're listening to 420 Radio.
This is Radical Russ, encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about teen drug use from Robert Platshorn's TheSilverTour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A recent survey by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control indicates that in states that have legalized medical marijuana, the rate of marijuana consumption among high school students has not increased. In fact, in legal states like Colorado, teen use has actually decreased significantly. It's simply no longer a big deal for teenagers in legal states. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let's focus our discussion first on marijuana, okay? Marijuana has a very distinct smell, okay? I'm going to pass around just a little tiny bit, and I want you all to take a smell so you know when someone is smoking marijuana near you.
Well, we are back. That is music from Mystic Roots with Pass the Marijuana. I'm Radical Russ hanging out with you here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. And getting some tweets back from some of the Salio out there in Ohio, although I've blocked most of them. When the discussions get, 19, 20 tweets deep and they're calling you names, that's when I block you. It's like, that's enough. I don't need to spend my time being called names. So I just block them. But there's one or two of them that I still look through. And one of them here has said, a couple of them have brought up the point that there was some interview with one of the investors in the Responsible Ohio 2015 campaign who said that if they fail in 2015, they'll be back in 2017 with another shot. So, of course, all the stoners against legalization are jumping all over me. Russ, you said there wouldn't be another time until 2020. See, somebody else is going to put legalization on the ballot later. We don't have to go for this one. It's not now or never. You said it would be now or never. See? Well, let's break this down. First of all, I never said now or never. In fact, I've been pretty clear about saying eventually every state will be legalized. The question is, how many more ruined lives are you going to let happen before that eventually happens? Every year that Ohio does not have marijuana legalization means 10,000 people get tickets or arrests that they would not get if marijuana was legalized. 10,000 people a year, and again, 4 times more likely to be black, 3 times more likely to be under the age of 30. People just getting started in life, people who may already have many more hurdles in life to have to clear, given yet another hurdle in, at best, a fine maybe they can't afford, and at worst, jail time. But nope, go ahead. Let's just go ahead and let that keep happening. Let's let another 20,000 people go through that for their next proposal. And this is the other thing that's killing me too, is because when I'm saying, look, you're not going to get another decent shot until 2020, I'm talking about other shots that might be the kind that they would think is true legalization, like one of their activist groups or maybe one of the national groups comes in to try to pass this thing. The point is that the groups that they're saying, that are the OTEPs and the ROCs that are saying, oh, we'll put something better on 2016, are broke. They have no money. They're not going to do anything. It's a pipe dream. The point was not that these investors don't have money to do it. Obviously they do. They got it on the ballot in 2015. And so I'm just stunned that these stoners against legalization in Ohio seem to think that the asshole rich guy who's only trying to corner the market in 2015 is somehow going to come back in 2017 with the perfect, pure, true legalization they'll all love and get behind. See? We don't have to vote for this asshole's language in 2015. In 2 years, this asshole will give us other language. And you think it's going to be better? Okay, maybe next time he doesn't propose a marijuana oligopoly. Maybe next time he proposes that marijuana shall be grown at 10 locations yet to be determined, but to be picked by a commission that consists of the investors in the scheme. Right? So it's not an oligopoly yet, but it will be. Or maybe you set it up so that there's a fixed number of 10 growers and the licensing fees for each grow will be $1 million. And there'll be a bidding process that assigns points based on all sorts of factors, capitalization and insurance and experience and so forth. That will, in effect, it'll have the same effect. You'll end up with 10 rich guys growing all the weed, and nobody who's currently growing and making money will be able to get in on the market. Or maybe in 2017, he makes it so that there's 10 that are already set in stone for his investors, and another 10 that are open licenses that cost $100,000 apiece. Maybe that's how it comes out. But regardless of how it comes out, what I bet doesn't come out of it is Oregon style. There's as many growers as you could possibly ever want. Let the market decide, and the cost of getting in will be less than 10 grand. Doubt it. You think this guy, this rich guy you proclaim to be a super asshole who's just trying to corner the market and make money, the guy who tried 3 times, was it, for the casino initiative to make it happen, to make money, is going to change his stripes in 2 years and suddenly be an open for all, let's let the little guy in marijuana legalizer? You think he's in this for the marijuana legalization? You think he's in this for the altruism of it? You think he's concerned about 10,000 arrests and citations every year? That's what his concern is. And he'll flip in 2017 and give you something you'll vote for? Bullshit. You same stoners against legalization will find something else in it that isn't really legalization. And you'll be against it again. So, pile on all you like, stoners against legalization, but here's the facts. I vote for legalization. I always support legalization. If there is something that stops the arrest and harassment of cannabis consumers, I vote for it. If the cops are voting against it, I vote for it. If Kevin Sabet is against it, I vote for it. If the DEA is against it, I vote for it. If the private prison guard unions are against it, I am for it. If the rehabs are against it, I am for it. If the pharmaceutical companies are against it, I am for it. If the fuel companies are against it, I am for it. If the timber companies are against it, I am for it when it comes to marijuana. Because I know who my enemies are. The rich guy who's trying to legalize marijuana doesn't want to put you in a cage. I know these people will say, see, they'll have their own enforcement division and it'll be a Gestapo. You always know they got a good argument when they resort to Nazi analogies, right? It'll be a Gestapo to round up the people who are competing with the oligarchy. Ha ha ha! Right. Sure, that's what it'll be. Somehow it's going to be so much more dangerous and risky to be a pot grower when pot is legal and you can home grow it because of 10 companies that'll not want you to do that, compared to city, county, state, and federal officials not wanting you to do that, and it's completely illegal, and the slightest smell of it can be an excuse to break down your door. Somehow, the legalization scenario is more dangerous for the marijuana grower. I just don't get it. So, all right, if you want to have that, okay, vote against legalization in 2015 in Ohio. Let 20,000 more lives be impacted by prohibition. And then in 2017, hope that the asshole you hated in 2015 and voted against in 2015 got the message that, oh, it ought to be all free market marijuana, instead of the message that, oh, if I just tweak the monopoly part of it, I'll be able to get what I want. I just don't get it. And really, oh, it's already decrim. It's decrim in Ohio. It's decrim for 100 grams. Well, if decrim's so great, why are you fighting for legalization at all? What's the harm? Why is, if you like decrim so much, because you want to be part of the green rush, right? Because this is what it's really all about, isn't it? It's all about whether or not you think you can get rich growing marijuana, isn't it? And this is where I think the Ohio thing suffers from a little bit of lottery fallacy, right? You know, the people that play the lottery. My wife's one of them. She buys a lottery ticket, like $2 worth of lottery tickets every Wednesday and Sunday or whatever it is, right? Always buying lottery tickets. I'm like, honey, lottery is a tax on people who are bad at math. Yep, but if you don't bet, you can't win. If you don't bet, you can't win. Somebody's got to win the lottery. And so everybody's approaching this Ohio thing as if having the 10 commercial growers already determined has somehow cost them their shot at winning the lottery. That somehow these guys would be opening up their own marijuana businesses. Now, some might. There's some farmers, probably. Some good growers who've got the capital and the wherewithal to be able to survive in an actual agricultural market. Not these guys that are growing a couple plants in their basement or their house who are selling them at $300, $400 a bag, whatever the price is in Ohio, making the easy money off of prohibition profits. But I'm talking guys that could grow to scale with standards, inspections, all that kind of stuff, and can do basic business who, probably losing out on an opportunity there. But I don't think for long. They have this attitude as if once this is passed, it will never change. And I just don't think it can't avoid changing. The way marijuana legalization is going to look nationwide in 10 years will stun us all. And I doubt very much that some sort of monopolistic approach can succeed. Weed wants to be free. The economics of it, the supply and demand of it, want it to be free. And trying to declare that there's only going to be 10 growers and that's going to take care of the state, you might as well declare that pi equals 3.0. You can declare it all you like. It's not going to change the reality. The reality is that legalization always trumps prohibition. We've got to stop the war. There's a war against us. And our enemies are the police, not the businessmen. And it does seem a little ungrateful, too. You're living in a state where for 45 years, nobody has even come close to winning a battle for you. 1973 when Ohio decriminalized, along with Oregon, I think. Or is it 74? 75? One of those years. But early 70s, Ohio decriminalized weed, and not a single battle in Ohio has been won since. And so finally, somebody comes along and gets legalization on the ballot, and in doing so finds a way to fund it. And you want to look that gift horse in the mouth? You want to reject that? I don't understand it. I never will. Well, folks, that's all the time we got for today. Time flies when you legalize. I got to make my way out to the Analog on Hawthorne for our Portland Normal meeting. Check me out on Periscope. We'll bring you as much of it as we can. Periscope's quite a battery sucker, though, I got to be honest. Join us tomorrow for one more show before I head out to Boston. There'll be no live show on Friday, but on tomorrow's show, Cops Say Legalize Drugs. We'll have a speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
Welcome 420 radio fans to the Activism Hour. I'm Russ Belville, and I founded 420 Radio intending to provide a public radio platform for the hard-working volunteer activists I meet every month from all across the country and around the world. The Activism Hour features videos from the people who make up the grassroots organizations fighting for an end to adult marijuana prohibition. Please learn more about these groups and send them your donations to bring the dream of cannabis freedom to all 50 states and across the globe. Today, you'll see videos from NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, at normal.org, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition at leap.cc, Students for Sensible Drug Policy at ssdp.org, the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org, Americans for Safe Access at safeaccessnow.org, High Times Magazine at hightimes.com, River Rock, Colorado at riverrockcolorado.com, and magicalbutter.com, makers of the Magical Butter Botanical Extractor. Now, on to the program, and thank you for your support of marijuana activism and 420radio.org.